My dear distinguished participants of our conference on the blue economy, we are extremely grateful for your participation, and we hope that you will find this experience very helpful. Actually, this conference is a preliminary for the 28th World Forum of the International Association of Jesuit Business Schools, which will take place in Sydney, Australia in July of this year, 2014. The theme of that conference is actually the fourth universal priority of the Society of Jesus, which is namely our common home. So we have decided to adjust that title slightly and give you this keynote speech about our topic today, which is our common ocean, harmonic playground, or chaotic battlefield. More than 2/3 of our planet is ocean, yet ironically, we know more about the surface of the moon and Mars than we do about the depths of the ocean. Oceans have provided food, income, and energy and transportation for millennia. Yet the ocean economy supports the livelihood of almost half of the world's population. Economic activities include the capture of fish, aquaculture, coastal tourism, marine construction, and transportation. So huge profits stand to be made by pharmaceutical, chemical, and cosmetic companies. The blue economy is predicted to double from $1.5 trillion in 2010 to a total of $3 trillion in the year 2030. So this represents a massive opportunity for mutual benefit for all the stakeholders involved. However, we are currently faced with serious challenges to the sustainability of the oceans, caused by overexploitation, extraction, pollution, loss of biodiversity, and climate change. The blue economy is a new term for an ancient experience. Basically, for us, it is a way of applying a basic principle used by St. Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, in his small book entitled The Spiritual Exercises of St. Ignatius, written over 500 years ago. His central principle is called tantum quantum in Latin. It is best translated as use, not abuse. He believes strongly that Almighty God had endowed humans with many things when He created the universe. So it is up to us to properly use them. Hence, the blue economy aims to reset the inclusive and long-lasting economic growth by enhancing sustainable marine resources to support development and civilization, while at the same time preserving and protecting marine resources. So the question we want to ask today is, how do we do that? Using a reflective methodology that is part of what is called Ignatian pedagogy, we want to combine two activities, reflection and action, which is called refraction. Interestingly, in the 17th century, Saint Francis of Sales criticized economists. He said, they love to study poverty, but the problem is that poor people can't eat books. So we must avoid the temptation to fall into a paralysis of analysis that locks us into the mentality that only likes to talk about the problem but not think much about the solution. So our methodology will combine both descriptive and exploratory research. It rests on the fact that ideas are very important in human history and experience. From the field of economics alone, ideas like freedom, justice, capitalism, socialism, opportunity costs, the law of the commons are but a few examples. Hence, we want to focus on just four ideas. The first one is called tantum quantum, which, as I mentioned, basically means use, not abuse. This means we should adopt a positive attitude by emphasizing the proper use rather than the abuse of our marine resources. Recent examples include the use of technology such as the internet, Facebook, social media, and now artificial intelligence. Initially, the source of such optimism has, however, been overtaken by use by the criminal element of these wonderful tools of technology. So today we have an industry called cybersecurity, which is big business. So reflective thinking can help us to decide how to use the tools of modern management to face the current challenges to the sustainability of the oceans. A second concept is the idea of stakeholder analysis rather than shareholder or stockholder analysis. The latter theory prevailed in economic circles and produced some unintended and undesirable consequences. For example, an overemphasis on production and consumption that has produced serious social costs, especially climate change and pollution. St. Ignatius would have called this plus, which is the Latin word which emphasizes quantity of consumption and production, rather than magis, the Latin term which emphasizes quality of life. So many people today prefer to measure the health of a society using what is called the happiness index rather than the standard measure of gross domestic product or GDP. So stakeholder analysis opens our eyes to the importance of all the parties affected by policy decisions, not just the welfare of the owners alone. So the concept was developed actually in the field of business ethics, and it is now a very valuable tool for analysis, especially since some of the stakeholders do not have a voice in the discussion. In the case of the oceans, this is the fish who live in the ocean and have lived there for millennia. The third concept is called multidisciplinary approach versus a narrow specialization approach. In the field of tourism, where we have done a lot of work, Jafar Jafari has created a marvelous visualization of this called his Wheel of Hospitality and Tourism Studies. It emphasizes the fact that many modern disciplines can now be applied to the field of tourism and hospitality. Things like psychology, anthropology, history, law, even theology can all be applied to the study of tourism and hospitality. So, as in other areas, tourism can be used properly, or it can also be abused. So we believe that the oceans also depend on cooperation between many academic fields. For example, geology, geodesy, geophysics, and geography. The fourth concept is basically the idea of multiple intelligence as opposed to IQ. Traditionally, IQ has been measured by determining a person's verbal and mathematical or scientific skills. Howard Gardner has given us instead the concept of multiple intelligences that go beyond these two categories. He started his analysis with 7 of them. So an appropriate example for us, for the oceans, is the idea of what is called spatial intelligence. We marvel and ask, how did sailors in the vast South Pacific Ocean ever navigate thousands of nautical miles without the help of electricity, radio communication, or GPS? They were geniuses in the field of spatial intelligence. So an elite attitude that puts too much emphasis on mental skills alone is not enough. We must take advantage of the skills possessed by millions of people. They are what we call streetwise, and they are without a formal education, but they are very, very intelligent. They study in the school of hard knocks. So another concept is a paradigm. In his best-selling books, starting with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey brings up and uses this concept in the beginning of his books. A paradigm is actually our way of looking at the world, our blueprint of how the world actually works. Now, the International Association of Jesuit Business Schools has produced a concept called the inspirational paradigm of Jesuit business education. It challenges our popular emphasis on greed, ambition, aggression, consumption, etc., that really neglect sustainability and ethical considerations. Now, perhaps the best example of a change of paradigm is Christopher Columbus. In 1492, the majority of people in the world thought and believed that the world was flat. Based on empirical evidence, this made a lot of sense. However, he cleverly convinced one of the major global and naval powers at the time, Spain, to test his hypothesis that the world is indeed round. It's not flat. So he set out looking for what it then called the Spice Islands in present-day Indonesia, but he ended up in the Caribbean. So his success set off the colonial wars between the then existing naval powers of Spain, Portugal, England, and the Netherlands. And this produced the colonial system that has left many developing countries feeling inferior to their European counterparts. Indonesia was called the Dutch East Indies for 350 years, and it is now trying to instill a sense of self-esteem and self-confidence in young people that it needs to develop as a modern country after 78 years of independence. Another paradigm shift that is vividly illustrated in the Oscar-winning movie Oppenheimer. It portrays the intensive work of the most brilliant minds in the area of physics in the early 1940s. They worked night and day with a team of assistants to produce the atomic bomb. This new invention was designed to destroy millions of people in one swoop. The fear of a nuclear war is the heritage of this great scientific endeavor. However, on the other hand, we recently witnessed the opposite effect. In the work of dedicated scientists, now able to enjoy the benefits of the internet and global communication technology, they work together to come up with the vaccine that saved, not destroyed, millions of lives around the world. Normally, it took 10 years for the approval of a new vaccine by the Federal Drug Administration in the United States of America. But thanks to pragmatic loosening of some regulations, the vaccine was approved in just 7 months. While this effort involved the dedicated work of scientists and government officials, the key player was the international pharmaceutical industry. Through their expertise in manufacturing and also marketing, they were able to deliver the vaccine globally as quickly as possible. However, today, sadly, only 7% of Africans have been vaccinated, and there is still an ongoing discussion over patent rights. So this conference wants to challenge our international network of Jesuit business schools to work together in a similar way to resolve the challenges facing the ocean. We need to challenge popular views on business and economics. We need to change the mentality that prioritizes consumerism, a blind faith in progress and technology for its own sake, the belief in the efficiency of the invisible hand of Adam Smith that produced the belief that a free market system based on perfect competition will solve all of society's problems. So the new emphasis is on cooperation instead of an unhealthy competition. Quality of life instead of quantity of consumption and production. Service management instead of industrial management based on blind efficiency. And finally, the idea that the happiness index is much more important than gross national product. So in essence, it is based on the Catholic social teaching that tells us virtus start in medio, which means basically moderation in all things. We are searching for satisficing behavior rather than just consumer satisfaction alone. This moderation reaches for a healthy balance in the work-life dimension of modern life. Business and government officials can play a decisive role in reversing the negative paradigm. We need to prioritize wealth creation, which is positive, rather than a mere poverty reduction mentality, which is more negative. Just think of the impact of global companies like Microsoft, Boeing, Amazon, and Starbucks that all originated in one city, the city of Seattle in Washington. These companies have created enormous wealth, income, and employment for millions of people. They have created new forms of work based on the healthy development of technology. So let us now use our talent base to work together on the oceans. So we sincerely hope that this conference will help you to re-examine your own paradigms. Which ones are correct while others are wrong? Which ones will produce results that are good while others produce bad results? Our conference takes place in the former Dutch East Indies with a population of some 270 million people, the fourth largest population in the world. It enjoys the comparative advantage of a demographic dividend in the form of young people on the verge of their most productive years in the global economy. Let us not waste this golden opportunity. Geographically, it is a vast country. It is the largest archipelago in the world, with 17,500 islands, called the Pearl of the Orient. It occupies 1/8 of the equator. It stretches from east to west in an area wider than the continental U.S. or from London to Kabul. There are some 6 million small-scale fishers who used over 600,000 fishing vessels in the year 2014. They are a key stakeholder, but they have a very weak voice in the dialogue. The ocean in Indonesia is 4 times the land area, yet the level of development of marine resources is only about 25% of its potential. So let us get to work and use our talents and energy to help them and other fishers around the world. Personally, I am reminded of a peak experience I had at a very young age. As a freshman or first-year student at Boston College, the world was experiencing the excitement of the independence movement in the many colonial countries of the world. In the early 1960s, the world stage was occupied by great and courageous leaders like Sukarno in Indonesia, Julius Nyerere in Tanzania, Tito in Yugoslavia, and Gandhi in India. So in January of 1961, in his inaugural address, the new President of America, John F. Kennedy, the first Catholic President of America, posed a stimulating question for our reflection. Ask not what your country can do for you. Instead, ask what you can do for your country. So let us rephrase the question today. Ask not what the ocean can do for you, but rather what you can do to save the oceans. So thank you very much for your attention and enjoy your exercise of refraction.